I had heard all about the legend of Kyle Allen, and I think the better team is the Eagle.
You got a million records, Kurt. Come on, give some of them up, dude.
What is an NFL quarterback room like?
So 2 years ago, I trained Sam Darnold and Josh Allen and Kyle Allen. That was my draft class.
I think that this league is filled with opportunities, and the guys that stay in the league for a long time are the guys that take advantage of those opportunities.
I'm just a big believer in repetition.
And I'm a big routine guy, and goals never end.
I'm just a big
And I'm a big routine guy, and goals. Once I stepped on that field today, I was good, man.
Welcome, everyone. Episode 25 of The Room, now the QB Room. And this is our season finale for season one. 25 episodes. We put out one every week except for 1 week. We were close. We put out one every week except for one. But this is a season finale. Thank you, guys. If you've watched every episode, which I hope most of you have, this has been an awesome season, man. This has gone way better than we thought it would. Tons of guys come on here. Everyone's being themselves. Great conversations. And really, this is just kind of turned into a storytelling setting, which is what the NFL is. It's just filled with awesome stories of different guys with different backgrounds and so many crazy things leading them to the pinnacle of their career, which is making the NFL and playing at a high level. We've had awesome guests on. We've had Kirk Cousins, Trevor Lawrence, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Josh Allen, Sam Darnold, so many quarterbacks, and in some of the biggest matchups of their season as well. And I really hope that you guys enjoyed it as much as I have, because this has been awesome. Today, our guest is Kurt Warner. This is the Super Bowl episode. We wanted to get you a Super Bowl winning quarterback, but not only a Super Bowl winning quarterback, an MVP, a Super Bowl MVP. He's been to 3 Super Bowls, won one, was close to winning all of them. And we get into it in the interview, but Kurt's a good friend of mine growing up in Scottsdale. He was always around helping out. What an awesome guest to finish up our Super Bowl special episode. If you haven't already, subscribe to the YouTube channel. YouTube subscribers are going up. Our Instagram is the QB Room, the_QB room. And just keep following us. This is the end of season 1, but there will be a season 2, and we're really excited about it. We're starting to film our interviews next week at the Super Bowl, and we're bringing you in-person interviews for the most part. I think we're going to try and do all of our season 2 interviews in person. They're going to be awesome. We already have a couple guests scheduled for next week that we're filming that are awesome guests. They're as good, if not better, than any guests we had in season 1. But keep following us. Season 2 is going to be a banger. We're going to keep going up. We're going to keep going. If you're not on the train now, you better get on, because it's going to get big. But this is the season finale. Here's Kurt Warner. All right, welcome into episode 25, the special Super Bowl episode. What better guest to have on than 2-time Super Bowl, 1-time Super Bowl champion, MVP, Super Bowl MVP. Met him in high school, actually. Kurt Warner. Thanks for coming on, Kurt. Scottsdale legend over here now. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good. Getting geared up for this whole thing. Great time of year for all of us at a football thing. So life is good.
Yeah, life is good for you. I met Kurt, so we always start the show off with how we met each other. We mostly know everyone. I feel like the quarterback world is connected in certain ways, and you kind of know everybody a little bit. But I met you when I was either a freshman or sophomore in high school. You had me and my offensive coordinator over at your house.
Yeah.
And you called us and you were like, let me break down your offense. Let me help you out. I want to help. Like, that's always how you've been. You've always just wanted to help. And you sat us down and you just tore apart our offense essentially for 2 hours.
Desert Mountain High.
Exactly. Desert Mountain High. And I was like this little 16-year-old kid. And I was like, oh my God, I'm in Kurt Warner's house. Like, what am I? So I just sat there, and I remember my OC was trying to explain all these concepts to you. And I remember there was one specific concept where you were like, how does this work? Like, this shouldn't work. And we were like, I don't know, but it does every single time. So we're going to keep running it. Oh, but that was awesome, man. That was one of my, I remember that vividly from high school.
Well, I tell you what, the biggest thing was I had heard all about you and Mark Andrew.
Yeah.
Playing together at Desert Mountain. And my kids, we had moved over this area. I knew my kids were going to be going to Desert Mountain, but I had heard all about you two. And it was like, oh, you're going to love to watch these guys. They got this great quarterback and this great wide receiver. And so that's really why I've reached out, is because I had heard all about the legend of Kyle Allen and Mark Andrews at Desert Mountain.
Legend.
And awesome. I can't wait. And if there's something I can do to help out, and it's really, part of the reason why I got into coaching. I got into coaching, my son's a couple years younger than you, but got into coaching high school ball when he started. But yeah, I love the X's and O's in the game, and I love teaching the position. and you guys know as well as anybody, God love all the coaches that are out there from the youth level to the high school level. But it's unfortunate that, there's a lot of coaches that don't really know what they're doing. And,
Yeah.
At all levels, man. At all levels. It doesn't
all
matter
the
where
way
you're
up.
at. Yeah.
all of it. Well, yeah, I mean, all the way up, but at the lower level. So that was always my goal. Like, how can I help? How
Yeah.
can I teach you, to make these things better? And more times than not, it's through the quarterback's eyes. Because what I hate is that, somebody throws a concept up or they see somebody else run a concept and it works. And then they put it up on the board and they're like, hi, we're going to run this concept. And you're sitting back and going, what am I reading? Like, I mean, it doesn't work.
Nope.
There's nobody in conflict. What are we trying to do here? But they're like, well, we're just going to run it because it works. And it's such a hard thing to do as a quarterback because, yeah, you want to trust your coaches and believe they know what they're talking about. But you got the ball in your hands at the end of the day, and everybody's going to be yelling at you if you don't do something good with the ball. So to me, it's always about looking at things from the quarterback's perspective and going, okay, does this make sense? Can I tell the quarterback what he's looking at? And if he's looking at the right person, that somebody's going to be open based on the concept. And so that was really, the impetus for me to get together with you and coach, and they just start breaking down the game and trying to help guys learn, because that there's so many great coaches out there that are going to teach the next generation. And I don't have the ability to teach all those guys. I don't have the ability to get in front of all those guys. So to me, sometimes it's about teaching the teachers so they can go do the right thing by the whole next generation of quarterback.
Yeah. And then full circle. So I remember when Kyle got a chance to start where it was 7 or 8 games in Carolina, and he was off to a hot start. I remember seeing something across the ticker. I think you were 5-0 or 6-0 or something like that. He was the first undrafted quarterback to win his first 5 starts since Kurt Warner. And it was like, well, that's a full circle thing. Because I knew what you guys were just talking about. Like, that's pretty cool.
Well, it was crazy too, Jordan, because every time, I probably broke 3 or 4 random, not broke, but met 3 or 4 random undrafted records. And it was always since Kurt Warner. And then you see with Brock Purdy this year too, it's since Kurt Warner. I'm like, good Lord, how many records does this guy hold?
Another Arizona boy. Yeah.
Brock, another Arizona guy. Yeah. Did you ever spend time with Brock out there, Kurt, or no?
I've got to know him a little bit, but I haven't really spent a lot of time with him. So, kind of the same thing is that when being in Arizona since the time I retired, you kind of follow the different guys from Arizona. So obviously, Brock being from Arizona, my other son played against his brother, so kind of followed the family.
Yeah.
Obviously being from Iowa as well, always trying to follow the Iowa teams too. And there he's at Iowa. Kate's playing at Kansas State, so they cross paths. And so really, I think just, over the years, because we've been in some of the same circle, I've had a chance to meet him and talk to him a little bit, but, never really to sit down or to get a chance to work with him. But we've touched base a little bit more this year as we've crossed paths. And so hopefully, unfortunate injury, but hopefully when he gets healthy, we'll get a chance to get him.
Yeah, tough injury, man. Well, one more thing about how we know each other, and I like to tell people a story because looking back on it more, it's crazy, and I didn't appreciate it as much in the moment because I was just swamped that year I was playing in Carolina. I remember that you used to text me after the games, and you would break down every single play of the game. You would write it down in your notebook. You would write down the time, where you were on the field, and then you'd give me your notes on each play. And I would I think it was Monday after the game. It was right after the game too. And I would look at it and I'd just be like, oh my God, yeah, that's a lot of good notes. And then I remember I was going to text you. I was looking back on those notes, and I'm like, man, how special is that? After every single game, you would send me that, and I would read through them, and it's just so detailed and so many good notes and so many good things. And that's just, for what you're saying, though, it's through the quarterback's eyes, right? You understand it. You don't have to know the offense. The concepts are the same all around. You understood it. And so that's just the epitome of you. You're just trying to help. You just want to help in any single way, want to be a part of the game. So if I haven't said it enough, I appreciate you a lot for doing that. Thank you, man.
I get, a lot of people have a lot of people pulling at them in different ways. And, I've always just said, I just want to be another perspective for people, because you can sit in a room with your coach and your coach tell you something. And you guys played the position. I've often said, you could put a play up on a board for all 3 of us. And one of us might love it. The other guy might go, it's okay, I like it. And then the third person might go, I hate that play. And it's the exact same play, yet we all see the game differently. And that to me was always the key as I, reached out to young guys and even reach out to coaches over the years. Is I'm just here to give you another perspective. I just want you to think about it from a different way, in case that way connects with you or it helps, or it makes more sense to you than what someone else is telling or how you're teaching it. And I think that's so key. The only way we can get better is to gain different perspectives. And sometimes we gain another perspective and it convicts us more in what we believe. And then there's other times we hear another perspective and we're like, oh man, I never thought of it from that perspective.
Yep.
And so that to me was always the point, was like, I don't know if Kyle can use this stuff. I don't know if this stuff benefits him in any way, shape, or form, but this is how I see the game. And maybe we see the game the same. So maybe something I can say, or a different perspective that maybe you never thought about, because I'm watching the tape anyways and doing it for my job. And so to me, it's fun when I can build relationships and say, hey, I'm just here as a sounding board. If I can ever give you some insight on how I might look at something, so you can kind of challenge all the different thinking that you might have.
Yeah. Very cool. How we met's a little less anticlimactic. You probably don't remember it. It was the Super Bowl in San Diego when Tampa smoked the Raiders. My brother was getting ready for draft training. I got to be the little tag-along little brother. And so Carson got introduced. His agent introduced him to you and your wife at a party. And we shook hands there too. But you probably don't. You might remember that was when you met Carson Palmer, but not realize that you met me that night too. My face was covered in zits. I was a redshirt freshman. So
there you go.
Well, let's get to our first game or segment here. We call this Throw It Deep or Check It Down. So we're going to throw a take at you. And if you love it, throw it deep. If you don't like it or you don't buy it, check it down. Reason for why. So first things first, coming
I
up.
don't ever like to check it down on guys.
I was about to say, you were a big check down guy. Yeah. You were able to throw it deep on everything, man.
Not with Marks and the horses and that hell. So, all right, the Pro Bowl needs more stakes. There needs to be more on the line. Throw that deep or check that down.
That's a good question. I don't even know how I feel about the Pro Bowl anymore. I mean, I think the biggest thing is that whatever we can do to get the actual Pro Bowlers to play in the Pro Bowl is what we need to do. I think the problem is that, and I don't know the right thing, if our game is so different than every other game, I don't think it makes it what it is. We all of a sudden have these guys that are way down the line, getting a Pro Bowl because everybody else just passes on the Pro Bowl. And so whatever that needs to be, where guys that get voted in want to go and be a part of it. When I was playing, it was a trip to Hawaii, and you got to take your family, and it meant something really unique and special at that time. And it wasn't even about like how much money we made for the game. It was special. And I think it's lost that specialness to it, where guys are just like, nah, I'm going to pass. I don't want to do it. I want to go somewhere else. And so if that's what you're talking about by states, which I can take it that way, is something that has more substance to it, so that the best players in our league that get voted in want to go and be a part of it. I will throw that deep. Be done.
I was in Vegas. I just got back last night from Vegas. I ran a kids camp out there, and I'm not going to name names, but I would assume all four of them. I was with 3 or 4 guys who got invited to the Pro Bowl and passed, but we're in Vegas. Check it out all weekend.
Right. Yeah.
They're still there. Yeah.
Catch a non-Pro Bowler in Hawaii, just happened to be in Oahu this week.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't have caught that. So
yeah,
I'm like, you got invited. Oh, I totally forgot. You're not even playing in it, not participating. Like, nah, I'm just chilling.
Exactly.
How were people playing when you were playing in the Pro Bowl, Kurt? Were they playing hard, like tackles full to the ground? I mean, I always go back to that Sean Taylor clip of him just smoking the punter, Like, is that how it was back then?
I mean, it was more so. Again, our game is different. So, I mean, everybody wasn't out there playing like it was a Super Bowl. But they were out there competing and, within the rules, and they were smart about it. Nobody was trying to hurt anybody. But, yeah, we were playing the game, and at least to the point where the fans got to witness the greatness of the players on the field, and it hadn't become, move out of the way and, try to tap somebody. It hadn't become that at that point. But again, I understand it's hard. Like, I understand after a long season.
Yeah.
Because when I went to the Pro Bowl, I was usually, most of the time I went was coming off a Super Bowl, and I was banged up, and it was a long season. And I didn't even play that much in the game itself, but I wanted to go. I wanted to be a part of it. I wanted to be around the other guys and experience all that was the Pro Bowl. And that's what made it so unique, is that you really felt like, you had to do something really, really good and be recognized by your peers to be a part of that. And so you wanted to make sure that you took advantage of it.
Yeah, it's definitely lost that. Next question. Patrick Mahomes. So this is going to be his second Lombardi he's going after, right? So he's going to win his second Lombardi. So he's going to get that trophy. This is a trifecta. There's like a box trifecta here. Okay. So he's going to, on Saturday, win the MVP. On Sunday, win the Super Bowl and the Super Bowl MVP. So he's going 3 for 3 this weekend. You going to throw that deep or check that down?
I'm going to check it down.
I wasn't expecting that.
As much as
You had your eyes downfield for a while on that one before you check that.
As
You
much
wanted
as
that
I love
post.
Patrick, and I mean, I can't sit here and say that couldn't happen. I mean, if the Chiefs win, yes, Patrick Mahomes will be the MVP, and I think he'll get the trifecta because I think he'd win in the MVP this year. For me, I think the better team is the Eagles, and so I'm not ready to sell that Patrick Mahomes is going to carry his team to a win, which is crazy to me because as good as he's been, to think that he's going to be 1-2 in Super Bowls as good as he's been, if he doesn't win this one, crazy to me. But I do think the Eagles are the better football team, and so I'm going to check that one now.
Yeah, it's crazy. When we were looking at stats, we were talking about just the championship games 2 weekends ago, and I didn't even realize the stat. It was Patrick Mahomes has been to an AFC championship every single year that he's been the starter the whole year.
And everyone's been at home too. At home in Kansas City. Well, I mean, it speaks to the regular season, but I mean, he's broke every one of my early records anyways. I'm the last one to have won the MVP and won the Super Bowl in the same season. So maybe checking it down, holds on to another something a little longer before Patrick smashes something else.
You got a million records, Kurt. Come on, give some of them up, dude. Next one, another Chiefs question. Andy Reid should get just as much credit as Patrick Mahomes should if they win this Super Bowl. Throw a deeper check down.
I mean, I'm throwing that beat. I mean, it's the ultimate team game. And I understand that our position gets so much love, and rightfully so because of what they do, and rightfully so with Patrick Mahomes because he's so special. But, I look at, my times playing, and a big part of it was the freedom, the creativity, and, the coaches allowing me to do what I do.
Mm-hmm.
Such a huge part. I mean, I had that, stint in between when I played for the New York Giants, and I was miserable all year playing football the way we played football because it didn't allow me to play football. I had to kind of manage things and with Coach Martz, and then with what we would develop in, with Coach Wiz in Arizona, everything was based around what I was capable of. And we pushed the envelope and we did all these things because that coach trusted in me and that coach had creativity to add to what I could do. And so as great as Patrick is, I think Andy and his ability to be creative and to allow Patrick the freedom to play the way that he plays is what makes them so special. So I think Andy Reid deserves as much credit as Patrick Mahomes, in this entire run.
Yeah.
Of course, I put them on equal footing if they're able to end up and win this thing.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting how it's almost like people have gotten bored with Andy Reid's greatness. You see all these young coaches, these young offensive coaches. They talk about Shanahan all the time. They're talking about KOC up in Minnesota. But the stats here, he's won 72% of his games. They've gone to 5 straight AFC championships. He did it in Philly too, and he just kind of, for whatever reason, he stays out of the media. He's kind of behind everything. There's nothing talked about him all the time, but it's just every single year he's there. And I think what you said is really important for especially young quarterbacks to understand, and young coaches too, is that you got to build the offense around who you got at quarterback, right? Like you said it best. Like they helped you do what you do best. They put you in a position to succeed. And I think there's 2 ways to do it. There's a lot of coaches who will say system. If you run my system correctly, if you do it the right way, it will work. And then there's the best coaches, in my opinion, who will build it out around who they have at skill positions and at quarterback and what everyone's comfortable with and be amenable and make it work. And that's when you find greatness.
Yeah. And allowing the quarterback to take ownership. I was just in with Todd Haley yesterday because our Super Bowl with the Cardinals was on. And when we went into that Super Bowl, we were playing against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they have the best offense or best defense in the National Football League. And, the Steelers were built around their 4 linebackers, a 3-4 built around their linebackers, built around James Harrison. And, all week long, I said, Coach, can we just spread them out? A big part of our offense was kind of 4 wides and kind of running a no huddle situation. We've done it all year. And I'm like, let's just spread them out. I promise you, if we spread them out, they will not stop us because, you have to change the complexion of how they play because they have to take linebackers off the field, or James Harrison has to play out in space.
Right.
And, you know, all week long he fought me because he's like, no, we want to do it this more conventional way. And, you know, we're afraid if we spread them out, then James Harrison will be on an island at the, you know, defensive end spot. And I'm like, but that's what I do. I see it. I get it out. I'll protect this. And so we go the whole first half and they won't spread it out, you know, and we're doing okay. And then I ended up throwing the interception at the end of the half as everything goes for a touchdown. So we're going in and have a chance to take the lead or tie. And then we're down 10 points at the half. And, you know, everybody's like, oh man, you know, if you would have done that, you would have won the Super Bowl. I always argue that the best thing about that Super Bowl was for the Cardinals that I threw that interception. So the entire second half, we had to play the way that we had played all year long.
Yep.
And the Steelers couldn't stop us. You know, spread it out and we played the game. And it was just like, this is what we do and this is how we play. And the whole world got to see that in the second half. Now, it didn't work out. You know, we could take the lead, but then we lose it late. But that to me, you know, and I say that to him every time I text him about the Super Bowl. I'm like, you just spread it out in the first half.
Don't let him live it down
right now. But the point is to what you're talking about. It's understanding the strengths of your players,
right,
and then trusting them to do what they do in the biggest moments. You know, so you can put your best foot forward. And I think it's so important for coaches that sometimes coaches want to step back and go, I want to run my system, or, you know, I want the system to get the credit, because to me, so often it's like, hey, you got to understand your personnel and then play to their strengths and give them the freedom to be the reason why you win and lose, as opposed to thinking that system is always going to carry you. And I think that's what Andy Reid does. And I think it's so important when you have great quarterbacks like that to let them do what they do.
I mean, you had to think someone was going to tackle James Harrison, though, right? Like the whole way down the field.
Just kept waiting.
You know, it's one of those
so
things
many
that
people.
you guys know as a quarterback, you know, like when you run it, the one thing you can't do is you can't get pinned inside and let them take the sideline. You know, so
right.
At Super Bowl, I went, you know, to the sideline just to kind of force him back in.
Yeah.
Expecting all those bodies to come. And so when I forced him back in, I'm like, yeah, I mean, somebody
has to, right?
You needed DK Metcalf is what you needed.
And
somebody who could hawk him down from
just
behind.
to watch it, and just one person after another, and then Antrell Roll running into Fitz on the sideline. You can't make this stuff up. But again, you know, to me, there was a part of me that said, okay, good. Now we get a chance. You know, they're not going to play conventional anymore because we're down 10 points. Now we get to play ball. And that's what happened in the second half, when we just took over and they couldn't stop us. And I think that's what made it a great Super Bowl. I think that's what we left the field feeling so good about ourselves, because we knew we were good enough to win the Super Bowl, even though it didn't play out the way that we wanted to. And, you know, as much as you always say, I wouldn't throw that interception, I don't want to have to watch that every year at the Super Bowl, I understood, you know, what that meant to our team and allowing us to have the opportunity to win that game in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, you guys, like, people don't realize that we're going to get it deep into the next, let's go to the next segment, actually, because this is a good segue about it. So we're talking about your Super Bowls. So we do another segment called Teach Tape, right? We like to keep it easy. We like to, you know, be the quarterback room, but we also want to dive into the minds of the different quarterbacks, right? How they see the game, what they're thinking on certain plays. And so Super Bowl episode, we picked one play from each one of your Super Bowls. We're going to throw it up. Jake, our producer, is going to throw it up. So first one, you said you're always throwing it deep. This was the biggest huck probably of your career right here. It's 73-yard touchdown to Isaac Bruce in the first Super Bowl. And just take us through, like, pre-snap thoughts, whatever you're thinking. You know, you're seeing coverage. You probably remember it clear as day. It seems like you remember every throw from your career. But just take us through what you're thinking in this moment, and just how much it meant to you, too, because what a huge play.
Yeah, I mean, I remember it vividly. You know, I mean, the crazy thing is you guys being quarterbacks as well. I mean, how many times you play the Super Bowl out in your front yard when you were a kid?
Endless.
You know, when I was a kid, I would watch the Super Bowl, go out at halftime, go out after the game, and my brother and I would just, you know, replay the Super Bowl, the two of us in our front yard. And, you know, every time it comes down to the last play, and, you know, quarterback, and somehow, some way, I was going to throw the game-winning touchdown pass, you know, to win the Super Bowl. So here I am, you know, finally getting in my first Super Bowl. You know, 2 minutes to go, the game is tied, ball's in my hands, and I'm like, here we go, like, just like in my front yard. And this was actually the first play of the drive. So you're thinking, okay, got to put a drive together, kick a field goal to win or whatever. First play of the drive, we go, what we called 999, which was all go in that particular situation. And so here's what I remember. All week long, we talked about the Titans. And when they played man coverage, they played high shoulder technique. Guys know that just means that the corners are going to play on the upfield shoulder. And when you're running a go route, they're not going to let you get past them. And so we had talked all week about throwing these back shoulders. The back shoulder throw at that time in the league is not what the back shoulder was.
No.
That was like a trick shot back then. Like a couple guys could do it.
Yeah. And,
now
it
it's like
really a
staple
part
of every high school offense.
Maybe down in the red zone, you would call a back shoulder here and there, but it was more just kind of throw it how you see it type situation. But we had talked about it all week long is that if that's the case, we're going to throw kind of that high lob and kind of set it on his back shoulder so he can adjust to it. And we weren't necessarily thinking touchdown. We were just thinking big play because we're going to stay up over the top. And so when he called this play, that's obviously something we practiced all year long. We hadn't called this play in the game up to this point. And then the next part of it was just the shell rotation. And so, they were back there with two safety, sitting there in maybe a quarters look. And then right before the snap, they decided to rotate down. And so they rotated down to Isaac Bruce's side. So give me a single high, give me a one-on-one on the outside. And it was just obviously in that moment, you're like, okay, this is what we practiced for. That's exactly the look I was hoping for. Rotate the safeties, give me one-on-one with our main guy on the outside. And just lay it up there. And from there was Isaac doing the rest, and you see there the great adjustment to come back and make the catch. And again, I'm thinking, okay, great. We'll get 35, 40 yards. And now we're in business to be able to stuff for the field goal. And then Isaac does the rest, gets a little help from his friends. And, we're walking into the end zone. And so, like I said, you're celebrating over there like, hey, we just won the Super Bowl. Little did I know, like, unlike in my front yard, there's still a minute and a half to go in this game. There's a long time to have to play out.
There's another quarterback out there. There wasn't another one in your front yard, man.
But that was kind of the heart of that place.
Yeah, I mean, that's the best 2-minute drill ever. Just throw it up and score on the first play. That's amazing, man.
Yeah.
But, I mean, even just going back to that point, right? I mean, everyone knows your story. By the way, your movie was incredible. Before, when we saw, like, the actual football scenes, I was a little skeptical of how they were going to play out. In my opinion, I think it was probably the best actual on-field football showing. Like some of these movies are terrible, but you would they'd show the film and then they'd go to the actual film of the plays. Yeah, I was sobbing the whole movie. We'll get to that later. But your whole story, right? So you get out of college in '93. You try out. I think it's the Packers. You're trying to go to the Packers, get cut, and then you're in Arena League forever. Didn't make a roster till '98. '99 is the year you start. You play all the way through. And then you're just in the Super Bowl, right? Your first year starting, you're in the Super Bowl. You're going to win MVP. Is there ever a point in the Super Bowl where you still felt like you didn't belong? You're like, why is it me? Why am I here? Like
imposter syndrome.
Yeah, like do I belong here?
Never from a football standpoint. Sorry about that. My dog.
No, you're good.
In the middle of a
dog-friendly show. We're good.
But never from a football perspective. Not for one time, once the ball was in my hands, did I not believe I belonged on a football field, wherever that was. Every time I'd had a ball in my hands, even through my crazy journey, I was successful. So that wasn't the part of it. When I got my big contract, that was when I thought, I don't know if I don't, I'm just playing ball. Like I don't know about all this money. I don't know about the contract. I don't know if I just all of that, but never when I was playing. I always felt like, put a ball in my hands, I will win and be successful. So never from that standpoint. And I think kind of the opposite, Kyle, is like, I felt I had paid my dues. Like I felt, I had gone through.
Oh yeah. You definitely paid your dues.
To be there. And even that year, I had an unbelievable cast of characters around me, number of Hall of Famers. And, I still believe the greatest offense the NFL has ever seen. But I also believe that I did my part. Like, this wasn't just, me riding on the coattails of a bunch of great players, that I felt like the offense was built around what I did and that I played really, really good football. And so I think from that perspective too, like I had earned that right to be there with all of these other great players and to play in that moment and to have my chance like so many other great quarterbacks to play in the Super Bowl.
So first Super Bowl, get the dub, first year, which is just insane, right? So then you go 8 years in between, right? We go to a different team. You're in Arizona for a couple years.
Well,
I think
just to stop you again, I did play in another one 2 years later with the Rams.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's right.
I'm sorry.
Just for context, I played in that other one where we lost to the Patriots.
Okay, played
then-
another one. That's right. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm gonna take a bath on that one because I was super young, so I'll get a little bit of leaway on that one.
No
Jordan,
worries.
that's on you for not knowing
That's
that.
my bad.
Yeah,
My
that's
No worries.
Anyways, okay, so here we are back in Arizona, though, right? 8 years in between. So you made the Super Bowl in 2003, 5 years in between this one and that one, another team, right? Just all that stuff in between. And then we get to this point, right? This play, I think this is one of my favorite plays from being a Cardinals fan because, I was a heavy Cardinals fan, like grew up in Scottsdale. Like even when your brother was there, Jordan, I was still a heavy Cardinals fan. Like Kurt Warner years in Arizona were some great years, and there were some crappy years in between then and Carson too. But we get to this play. This is just such an iconic play. Kind of a similar situation, right? 2-minute drill, the slant to Larry Fitzgerald, just splits him right down the middle. Just same thing. Take us through it. What you're thinking, coverage, everything.
The fastest Larry's ever ran.
Yeah.
This was one of my favorite plays, just in general, the concept that we were running. But, as we talked a little bit about earlier is, I had thrown the interception at the end of the first half. So we were down at half 17-7. And then to me, second half, we spread it out and they said, it's time to go. And I think he threw for nearly 300 yards in the second half. And that's against the top defense in the National Football League. It was so much fun to play in the second half because I felt like the tides had turned and they couldn't stop us, and we did a really good job with our pass concepts in that full-wide situation. But this play here on the bottom, you notice that, we would put Anquan and Larry together quite often, because when you put them together, now, it's impossible to double team both of these guys.
Right.
And so we create opportunities for one of these guys, to go one-on-one. So this particular play is a play that we call under. And so, the little in route that you see, the short in by Larry on the outside, that's what we call the under route.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the top of it, we had, it was normally like a 14-yard in route. So it was designed for a cover 2 concept where we could read the underneath defender, high, low, in that particular case. But we added an adjustment, not just for this game, but we added an adjustment through my time with Arizona that when Anquan would be pushed up the field and he got to his 12-yard mark where he would normally break, and that defender inside of him, whether he was carrying him man or even in zone would carry him, then he could break out. So now get a man beater. If they were playing inside leverage man, now we didn't lose that play. Anquan could break outside, and we had a great man beater there. So most of the second half, because they were having trouble stopping us throwing the football, they would go to 2-man. So in this particular case, they were playing 2-man right here. And so normally we don't expect Larry to win it inside on the under against 2-man. So what I'm really thinking on this play is I'm obviously going to peak Larry, but I'm thinking Anquan with the runaway against inside leverage and 2-man. But as we came off, Larry did a great job of jumping inside of Ike here, and he does a great job with that release, and he beats him inside. So obviously first read, I'm going to put it on him. But it was the second part of that concept that split the middle like this, because Anquan put up and had man-to-man coverage, so he broke out. And so Troy Polamalu, who was playing safety, broke outside with Anquan as well over the top. You see him just coming into the screen right now. So he's out in numbers. So when Larry catches it, the safeties are split completely because of that little addition that we added to the concept. And thus, when Larry caught it, there is nobody in the middle of the field except green grass because of, Anquan reading that correctly against man, breaking out, Troy jumping him, and Larry doing a great job of beating him across his space in 2-man, and easy play by me, nothing better than throwing a 5-yard pass and letting the rest of the guys get the job done, putting in the end zone. And, right there, like when Todd came over to me, and really when we went to the sideline, very similar situation to the first Super Bowl that we talked about, was everybody's like, oh my gosh, we just won the Super Bowl. And I'm sitting here going, relax, there's 2 minutes to go. I've been here before. There's a lot of to be played, but it was very similar situation that we went out there and we scored with 2.5 minutes to go to take the lead for the first time in the Super Bowl. And, and everybody thought, at least for a minute, that the Cardinals were going to be world champs.
Yeah, what did you whisper to Todd right there? Or would you just whisper and said, Todd, I told you to spread it out. What are we doing, man? Come on.
I'm sure I said that a couple times.
Yeah.
But right there, what I think he came up and said, great job. You just won the Super Bowl for us. And I think I just whispered back, like, this thing ain't over yet. Like, I'm not ready. You guys can all celebrate. I've been here before, and I'm not ready to celebrate until we get to triple zeros. Because again, my Super Bowls, we tackled Kevin Dyson on the 1 yard line in the first one to win. Adam Vinatieri in the first Super Bowl that was decided on the last play of the game. Adam Vinatieri a field goal to beat me in another one. And then, of course, in this one, we take the lead with 2.5 to go. And then with 30 seconds, Santonio and Big Ben
catches the ball.
Catch in the corner. So, I was fortunate to play in 3 incredible Super Bowls, but you just realized in those moments against great players, you got to see triple zeros on the scoreboard before it's time to celebrate.
Yeah. Crazy. And that concept too, the way I remember it is early 2000s. That was really Peyton kind of coming up with that concept. Every team I was on, it was either called Indy or Colt.
Yep.
That slow zero outside, 14-yard basic, and then the 2-man option, whether it was red or it was called, hey, 30, 30, 30, give me a 3 route and widen out on there. So that's cool. I didn't know that he had the real-time adjustment.
Peyton ran that concept, to death. I didn't know if they had that adjustment on it, because now you see it all over the league. It's, because again, it's crazy. You guys have probably been in a number of systems too. So I think it's always funny that when I start talking about play calls, I always go back to my Rams system. For whatever reason, that's the language I speak. So we did the dig back then. And so everybody in the league runs what I call 72 now. So the under on the outside and then the corner off the inside. And I hate that concept because it's only good against man. And so
2-man, that's it. Not even cover one, just 2-man, that's it.
Why people won't do it the way that we did it, where it's like run it with the basic and then make that one read option off of it, where now you get the best of all worlds against zone or man. And it's the same simple concept and a simple adjustment to it. But yeah, I see everybody running that, but they don't have, like you said, it's all one or the other. I think if you just add that little adjustment so you get the best of both worlds, now it's pretty much an unstoppable concept if you got, 2 good players running it.
Yeah, there's so much, I always talk with young guys about it used to be colleges would steal offense from the NFL and high school would steal offenses from the college guys. It's totally flips, right? NFL, it's funny, I got the guys I'm working with for the draft, and when they play in a system that's, really run and shoot, or, Hendon Hooker from Tennessee, and they basically, what's the receiver have right here? Well, he's got a fade, a slant, a seam, an option, or an out route on this. Like, what? Like, how do you get a feel for that? And teams are grilling him, in the interview process, because NFL teams are trying to go, how do you guys read that? What do you guys do there? And they're interviewing him, but they're doing, some R&D on a system in Tennessee that's completely based off everything's an option. And so there's just so much, it's flowing upwards now as opposed to downwards. But incredible Super Bowl. I remember that one vividly, watching that. Larry was one of my favorite players. Ironically, brother ends up playing with him and all that stuff. But I watched a lot of Larry. I don't know why. I just loved him. But
Larry's the best too, man. I was up in Pebble at the Pro-Am this week, and I saw Larry up there. He is like a superstar up there, dude. He is living the dream in the golf world.
He is.
He also wears the tightest pants ever.
When we first got together, he was awful at golf. He didn't want to have any part of it. And now it's become a huge passion and obviously really, really good. He loves playing in those things now. But I agree with your pants. Way too
Well,
tight.
it's funny.
Come on, man. It's time.
People ask you, like, who's the best athlete you've ever been around? Who's the most athletic guy? I played around great athlete. Troy was one of those, right? Was just an incredible athlete. But I remember my brother's telling me a story. He gets to Arizona and, Carson, right? Going to build a relationship with the guys, get to know everybody, right? And so he's like, going to go play golf with Larry. But play golf with Larry is like Phantom picks you up, takes you to private plane flies to Flagstaff to play golf, fly back, Phantom drops off at house, right? So he's like, man, this is crazy. And Carson's telling me, he's like, yeah, actually, Larry's like even or competitive at that point, whatever. They were the same kind of golfer. My brother's a good golfer. And he's telling me a story that Patrick Peterson's like, hey, let me come play with you guys. And he's never played before. And they're like, no, we're not going to go give you golf let. We're going to play over here. We're probably playing for some money. No, you can't do that. And within a calendar year was competitive.
Yeah.
Patrick Peterson going from how do I hold this thing to you played a lot with Larry, Pat getting to that level. That was like the most athletic thing I've ever heard, as difficult as golf is, but somebody
So
that
hard.
progressed that quickly was unbelievable.
Yeah. Great.
Well, very cool.
Getting back into it, quarterback stuff. There's tons of takes around the league, everyone talks about the quarterback position, right? Quarterback position is the most, we have the show, the quarterback group, right? It's the most talked about position in every sport. It's the most important position in every sport. You see a lot of guys out here giving takes. Is there any take about the quarterback position that you just don't agree with? That's kind of like a widely accepted thing, or anything about the quarterback position where you like, I do not believe in this. Like, this is completely different. And I know, like, working with you in your backyard, like, you are very like specific about your technique, your different ways of mechanics and all that stuff, and seeing it through the quarterback's eyes, like we've already talked about today. So you have a very strong opinion on the quarterback position. So I'm interested to hear this.
I mean, obviously there's a lot of things that, I believe in that I don't know if everybody else does. But I would say that the biggest thing, and I think sometimes we talk about semantics, but, I'm not all into the semantics part of it, because I think sometimes quarterback gurus will talk around in circles and make it sound like they're doing what you would want them to do, and they're really not. So I would say, one of the biggest things for me is the idea of disassociation, which I know is huge in this day and age, because we want to talk velocity. When I teach the quarterback position, I want to teach efficiency and accuracy. That to me is how you win at the quarterback position, not being able to throw it harder than other guys. And we all know you have to have a level of, velocity on the football. You have to be able to throw it firm enough to make the different throws. But, I know in the new world, there's a lot of this disassociation where we're trying to keep our front shoulder kind of closed off. We want to close off our front toe, because what that does is it creates that rubber band effect that gives me the ability to create more velocity. And to me, I think when you close off that shoulder and can't fully follow through, where you close off that front toe and you can't allow your power to come from back hip through to front hip and down through that front foot, that it affects your efficiency. It affects your ability to be accurate. And that to me is the name of the game. Is I want to teach you how to throw the ball to the right guy and be accurate with that throw every time. I don't want to teach you how to throw it hardest. That's something that you just have to be able to do. I want to teach you to create power with your core and not create power with your arm. I don't want your body to go faster. I want it to go slower, right? The faster we move our body, the harder it is to control. But the more controlled we are with our body, the slower we can move our arm, the better chance we have to be accurate. And so in this world, that disassociation, and again, I understand it's a fine line. I understand that when you're doing anything athletic and you're moving one direction and then going back and moving the other direction, there will be a level of disassociation part of that process. But the way that it's taught and the way that, people try to create that rubber band and that twist to create the velocity is something that I don't agree with, because I do believe it leads to inefficiencies. And a lot of people that do that, they struggle with the things to me that make a really efficient, good quarterback consistent. They struggle with that. Now, they create a little more velocity, but you guys know, like, if you're throwing something hard, you either hit or you miss. There is hardly any room for adjustments when you throw it hard. When I played the game, I very seldom threw the ball as hard as I could. Now, I understand there's a part of it when you've got guys like Aaron Rodgers that don't use their feet and that create that power with their core, but I'm not teaching Aaron Rodgers. Like, that's
You can't. Yeah.
And so, what he does with that is unique and it's special and it works for him. But I'd also say with Aaron is that if you brought his technique with him a little bit better, he'd be even more efficient and more accurate. And, and it's hard to say because he's so special the way he is, but I want to teach off of the Drew Breeses. I want to teach off the Joe Burrows in the guys that are efficient, because I believe as a quarterback that we're not all going to be ultra talented physically. But if you know how to play with technique and you know how to play mentally, I believe you're always going to have a chance if you've got the level of skill that you need at that level to be successful. And so I'm just a guy that I don't teach velocity. I don't care. I need you to have a strong enough arm. I need you to be able to make every throw, but I want to teach off of that efficiency. And I think that disassociation idea to me isn't about efficiency. It's more about velocity. And so I guess that's the one that I hear all the time. And I watch, so many of these different gurus or quarterback coaches and working with their guys and closing that front shoulder and throwing across, not able to finish. And it just bothers me. It's just one of those things that it doesn't make sense to me, because I'm a guy that, like, I'll tell you why I think what I do is most efficient. And then you tell me why yours is most efficient. And I've never had anybody that's been able to explain it to me and really show me why that would be more efficient than what I teach. And so that's the one thing that I get hung up on when I hear a lot of people and I hear it really. It seems to be what's taken over, the quarterback world in so many ways.
Yeah, you might be surprised to hear this. I agree with you. I think I look at it like a pie chart. Like, so if you're a young quarterback, let's just say you're a college guy and you got all this, I have this pie chart worth of investment, this time that I can invest into getting better, right? You got to monitor how much of that is the biomechanics of throwing from a stationary position, because you're just not going to be able to throw from a stationary position that often. Now, the foundation of your throwing motion should be that I can stand here, hit that spot consistently without moving, right? Foundation of a great shooter like Steph Curry, he's a world-class free throw shooter, right? From a stationary position. But he's got to be able to make three kinds of shots: uncontested, contested, and then he has to be able to create separation, right? That's what a step back jumper is. Same thing with us, right? We have uncontested throws, bubble screen, no pressure, hit the slant, right? We saw 2 touchdowns where you got to throw it without getting hit, right? So you got to have the uncontested. You got to be able to stand in there and take one on the chin for sure. There's no drill for that, right? You either do it or you don't. And then you got to be able to create that space. And so I just think, a lot of quarterbacks get hung up on learning something that they didn't know about. And so they chase it. And then when they look at their pie chart, they go, man, I spent 60% of my offseason focused on creating velocity, when I actually believe that the majority of the mechanical issues that a quarterback has stem from a movement that precedes the throw. So they put themselves in a position to do that. Like, I've got some guys draft training right now that you would not say are overstriders. They don't overstride. But we go out here and go 5 no hitch. They reach with the 4-step. They put their right foot next to them. Now the only thing they can do is overstride. So you actually need to solve for the movement before the throw. So, if we throw for 2 hours, we throw the second hour, it's all movement-based stuff, how we use the ground.
Yeah.
And what I've realized the last 3 or 4 years is that quarterback position, and I know you're a golfer, the quarterback position, in my opinion, is at least a decade behind golf and pitching in terms of the understanding of the coaching community. Like, we say QB gurus, and that's basically somebody with a website and ability to get kids to come to a field and charge money for it.
Yeah.
Baseball gurus, no, they have biometric equipment. You know what I mean? Like, they have a kinesiology. They're TPI certified. In golf, like, you couldn't be a pro at a country club down the street from your house unless you were at least level 2 TPI certified. Yeah. Right. Now, I don't want to make it about certifications, but no coaches in the NFL are, definitely college and for damn sure high school. So it's just the development of the position as a whole is basically the sum of a lot of gimmicks and a lot of personal opinions about what I used to do, or what I used to teach this guy, or I taught this guy and it worked well for him, so this must work for you, even though you have a very different body type and you're physically incapable of doing some of the things that he's doing. So as a whole, the ecosystem of developing quarterbacks, I just think it's a decade behind. I mean, I got a friend whose wife's on the LPGA Tour. It's a decade behind the LPGA Tour.
Well, I just don't know if enough guys really understand the keys to it, because, you talk about biomechanics and, there are a lot of athletic movements, golf, hitting a baseball. Some people want to throw pitching in there, boxing, where there's a lot of similarities in those different things, but they're not playing quarterback. There's different aspects to having to finish in a certain spot. Like, when I'm hitting the baseball, I'm hitting the baseball. I'm not going, well, I got to hit the baseball, right at that pre-50 sign. I'm just hitting it. I get all this space to be able to hit it. So it's not about, the efficiency and the accuracy of hitting it to a certain spot. So although I understand the hip movement and the explosion, there's another aspect to the follow through and the finish with the weight that is completely different than other sports because of what you have to do with the football and where you have to throw a football. And so, and to your idea, there's the idea of understanding how to throw a ball with your feet and then understanding when you have to take your feet out of a throw. And so now I still have to do the same things with the rest of my body, but now I don't get the luxury of starting with my back foot. Now I've got to create that power and generate that power in a similar fashion, but without my legs. And so there's just so many different aspects to it to me that is unique to playing quarterback. And you can't just pick up, oh, well, this athlete does this, so let's talk to playing quarterback, because it's just not the same. I mean, even with pitching, I'm throwing it hard to a spot. In football, sometimes I got to throw it up to bring it down to drop to a spot. It's a completely different kind of throw and mechanic than just throwing a baseball. So anyways, we could talk all day, as you know, about all those little nuances that go into it. But it's such a different thing. And I hate sometimes hearing these universals like, well, trying to create velocity, so we're going to do this. And I'm like, if I'm going to teach you to play quarterback, I'm going to teach you to throw it to the right guy in the right spot, not how hard you can throw it. I don't really care. I'm not going to teach you to be Patrick Mahomes running around and doing crazy stuff. I'm going to teach you how to play so you can make the throw you're supposed to make. And then you go figure out how to be an athlete, those 5 or 6 times a game when you got to be an athlete. That to me is how I approach the position.
I like it, man. I mean, I work with Jordan a bunch. I worked with you a bunch too, Kurt, in your backyard. And I think one of the most impressive parts of your game was just you're able to control trajectory. It's like you said, it's not about power, it's about accuracy. So you're able to control trajectory. Like you look at some of your best throws, even the under to Larry, right? You're not ripping that in there. You're laying it in front of him, letting him run through it, putting it in the perfect spot to give him a catchable, runnable ball. And you did that so well on your career. And I think as you go from high school to college to the NFL, it becomes less about throwing it as hard as you can late because you see the guy open. It becomes more about how much can you anticipate and how much can you lay the ball and use different trajectories and use your creativity to get it to the spot where he needs to be.
Yeah.
So I did not expect you to say that. I didn't know what you're going to say that, but that was really interesting. I like that a lot. That's awesome, man.
That's great.
Yeah.
And I know how passionate you are about mechanics too.
Very, very much so. I love talking about it and, all the different things. I mean, just like, Jordan, you're talking about the oversliding. The crazy thing that, I've learned over the years is that if you lead with your back foot, you can't overstride. The only way you can overstride is to reach with your front foot. So if you've got somebody loaded into their back foot and leading with their back foot, the body only goes where the body can go. And, but I see it all the time too, is they reach with the back foot and now they've got to reach with their front foot and now they're getting out of whack instead of getting loaded on their back foot and allowing that to be the catalyst to every movement, when you're in that, proper throwing position or you're in the pocket and you can throw that way. And so, I hear people talk about overstriding all the time and I'm like, it's impossible if you're loaded and you lead the right way. But so many people don't understand that. Their weight's all up front and they're reaching, because they can reach up front. And so it fascinates me because I do, work with a number of these quarterback coaches when they come and, like you said, they've got 250, 300 kids under their care. And you're talking with them and you're like, he doesn't even know the basics of how to throw a push. And it just, and that they're teaching 300 kids that, and you're just kind of going, gosh.
Yeah. All right. We're going to play one game and then do 2-minute drill with you, which we've already watched a couple of your 2-minute drills, so you're pretty good at them. But this is the end of season 1. So you're our last guest of season 1 Super Bowl episode.
We've had some guests now too. This has been fun. I mean, Pickett, when he got named the starter, Josh before week 1, Trevor, we've had a lot of great conversations, college and pro. Too.
Yeah, a lot of fun guests. The perfect way to wrap it up, like we said at the beginning, with Super Bowl champion. But this is the quarterback room. Like, we've talked about quarterback rooms with a lot of guys. My favorite thing to do is when we were talking about fits of, like, what makes a quarterback room great, right? Like, who are the guys? Like, what are the attributes? Like, what is the vibe in there? Like, what do you need to have a great quarterback room? Like, if Peyton Manning and Tom Brady were in the same quarterback room, like, it probably wouldn't be a great room, there's too much clashing, right? It'd be a funny room, but it wouldn't be a great quarterback room, So we're going to play a game. It's called the QB Room Draft. We want you to draft your ideal quarterback room with quarterbacks in today's game, right? We'll start with the starter. We'll get a backup in a third string. And then if you can think of a P squad guy to throw in there too. throwing in there. But you got to think about all the angles, right? Like everyone's got to have their spot. Everyone's got to work together. Everyone's got to support each other. If you can think of it off the top of your head right now, what is your ideal QB room in today's game?
Oh my gosh.
So pick your starter.
Yeah, it'll be easy to go starter. Maybe not actually.
Yeah. A couple guys. Am I coaching them? Or
You can be the coach, yeah.
Yeah, you can be the
make
coach.
you the head coach. Yeah, Kurt's the head coach here.
You can be the head coach, and you can have Todd Haley be like the assistant quality control guy. That we can just put him in the corner and tell him we're spreading it out.
Yeah.
Be quiet and get me coffee.
you know what? I would wrestle between two to be my starter. I would either take Patrick or Joe Burrow as my starter. And the reason I say that is because I always believed in it. I wasn't the most athletic quarterback, but when somebody could put a play up on a board, you guys know when you put the play up on the board and the coach goes, okay, this is what we expect to happen on this play. What I always believed was one of my greatest attributes was I had the creativity to not only see the play that was on the board, but to see numerous possibilities beyond that on my ability to process and see what defenses do. I think, Patrick, that is one thing that, unless you know that, you don't understand Patrick's ability to creatively see infinite possibilities on the course of a play. So I would love to coach him because I think, we could see things differently, and it's fun to know that you have a quarterback that can play outside the box and understand those different things. Joe just processes information, I think, faster at the snap than anybody in the National Football League and understands how to get to the right guys. And so he plays the game very much like I played the game. So I think that would be fun to coach too, is to have somebody that sees it like you see it and plays like you played to coach as well. So one of those two guys for those two reasons would be my start.
Love it. All right, from a backup perspective, we need somebody who can come in and win us a couple of games in a pinch. Got to get us out of a bad situation. Lights can't be too bright, but also somebody who's going to make the starter better. Humility, I think, is a big part. You got to be confident enough to go in there and play, to be a 2, but you have to be humble enough to be there in support of that guy. You have a backup in today's game. So you can make a starter a backup if you want.
What do you say? I gave a starter or backup? That's what I was just going to I don't know if I should do that to anybody on a
No.
I'm not sure if that's a good. Okay, who I'm taking? I'm taking Andy Dalton. I'm a huge Andy Dalton fan.
Yeah,
I
same.
believe he's a guy, again, because I know what he is. I know there's some limitations there, but great dude, has won in this league, plays the game a certain way with anticipation and understanding of the game. That, again, especially like if Joe Burrow was my starter, putting Andy in there because I think he can play the game very similarly to the way Joe Burrow can play the game. And he's a winner and a guy that's, won at this level numerous times, that if I need a game or two to play within the system that I'm teaching, I would take Andy Dalton there.
I like that pick.
I like it.
All right, we won't make you go P squad guy, but you gotta have a third. You see that today. There was, I think the stat was 6 teams played with 3 quarterbacks this year, and a couple of teams played with 4. So you never know. You might need a third. Who you got?
A third. I mean, so where am I picking from? What's my field that I'm picking from for my third?
You got you have unlimited cap space here. You can do whoever you want.
Man,
pick a young guy. You need some young guy.
I'm gonna actually go with Brock Purdy.
There we go. The perfect third.
Again, I'm not saying that he can't be a starter moving forward, but again, I know the kid. I think he's a great kid. I think he could learn tremendously from the 2 guys in front of him. I'm a full-time possible starter. Again, I believe he plays the game similar to those other 2 guys in a way that I could coach the same way. He could play within the system. He can make the throws. I like the way when he knows what he's doing, he can stick that back foot in the ground and throw it. And I think there's a lot of upside there. I think, we saw it, obviously this year we have a little bit of body of work to go out of, which was really good, but I think there's a great body of work right there. And so I believe we'd be in great shape, even if we fell to our 3 and had to win a few games. And then I got my guy Joe to finish this thing up.
It's good, man. It's a good room.
I don't know where I would go as backup because he just plays the game so differently, but I still think he can play within that system.
Right.
We'd be in good shape there.
Well, I mean, Henny's his backup, right? 2 totally different players, but they'll find a way to make it work.
Yeah.
It's awesome. I don't see Kyle Allen on there anywhere, but that's totally cool. I could be the P Squad
All
guy.
right, sorry,
It's
man.
all good. No, it's all good.
I thought this group was excluded from that. So.
Yeah, Jordan Palmer, QB coach. All right, cool.
P Squad. We didn't get him let him get to P Squad. He was going to take me in P Squad.
All right, cool. Oh, we were drafting XFL guys. My bad. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I was a Sacramento Mountain Lion at one point in the UFL.
There you
for about
go.
48 hours.
All right.
Nice.
With
There you
the
go.
late Denny Green. Awesome. All right, this is the last little segment. This is literally going to take 2 minutes. It's called a 2-minute drill. It's our favorite part of the show, so this is where we throw it to you. Now, they made a movie about you, so this will be the first and only guest where your 2-minute drill actually plays out in a Disney movie. But it's just start it wherever you want to start it, and it can end it at your career or today. But just the highs and lows. Like my business is called QB Summit. My logo is a mountain range because that's what your career is. I don't care who you are. The inevitability of success and adversity is coming. If you end up being a Hall of Famer, it's probably because you're world-class at handling success and also world-class at handling adversity. We know guys that can handle success really well. Adversity cripples. I know that guys who, when their back's against the wall, they're at their best, and it's the success thing that they have a difficult time handling and dealing with. So we got a little timer on the clock.
I get
can
a
end it where you wanna
2-hour
end it.
movie dedicated to this, and I got to do it in 2 minutes.
Yep.
Okay.
Just the trailer for the movie, man. It's just a trailer.
I guess. Wow. Okay. Don't be talk hard. Okay. So one of the lowest parts of my career was sitting on the bench for 4 years in college, having a dream of playing in the National Football League and never getting a chance to play in college where you're sitting back going, there is no way to fulfill a dream in the NFL when I'm sitting on the bench in college. Able to play my senior year, parlay that into an opportunity with the Green Bay Packers. Again, one of those moments where this close to my dream and then ended up getting released by them and working in a grocery store. And that was probably the most difficult moment because not just because I was working in a grocery store, but because nobody had ever gone from a grocery store to the NFL. There wasn't a path laid out where I could go, okay, the first step is this and the second step is this and the third step is this. And so that was probably the lowest moment because I didn't see the path that would get me to the NFL. Fortunate to be able to play arena football and then in Europe and then get the opportunity with the St. Louis Rams. And it was like a perfect storm. I think that's the beautiful thing. If you'd have told me by the time I was 28, I would win a Super Bowl and be an NFL MVP, I would have taken it in a heartbeat. Maybe not the journey that I wanted, but I found myself in a perfect situation with the Rams to be able to make that run and win a Super Bowl my first year. And then the rocky parts of getting released by the Rams and going to the Giants. But, the blessing of having another opportunity with the Arizona Cardinals and to take a team that was the losingest team in the last 50 years to their first Super Bowl and being on the edge of winning a Super Bowl with 2.5 minutes to go was really one of the highlights of my career because I've always believed that my career is less about throwing touchdown passes and it's more about impacting people and impacting organizations that I've been a part of. And if you look at the course of my career, Rams, Giants, where they were when I got there to where they were when I left, that to me is what I'm most proud of. And the highlights of my career is changing the perception of those organizations.
That's awesome, man.
Well,
Incredible.
Thanks for taking the time, Kurt. I know you're crazy
You got
busy.
it. No problem.
I
Good stuff.
appreciate you. I hope you had fun.
No doubt.
Hall of Famer, Super Bowl winning quarterback, MVP, awesome philanthropist. You do so many great things in the community. You're not only affecting franchises, but where you live right now, you're affecting so many people around you. Great family man. You've always been such a great help to me and people around. So really appreciate you we'll both be in Scottsdale next week. So hopefully we see you out there, man. I know you're going to be doing probably a million things. Scottsdale is your city, so Super Bowl in there. But yeah, man, appreciate it. This was awesome. This is the season finale. So if you want to say anything to anyone, you got it. If not, we will catch you later.
Good stuff, guys. I appreciate you having me on. Yeah, holler at me when you guys are back in town.
Yeah, I'll hit you up, man.